Welcome to the Vault. This commentary is pertaining to the University of Idaho students who were brutally slain a month ago. And there is a photograph released pertaining to the young ladies, Kaylee and Maddie, at a corner bar. I do not know if this has been verified or not. I'm going to briefly discuss that photograph. I'm also going to play a little bit of audio from the body cam from the police going to their house a few months ago around on Labor Day. And I'm going to ask the ultimate question. Were they targeted because of noise coming from that house? This house has been labeled a party house. So how often did they party? Was it every weekend, every other weekend, through the week? Did somebody become enraged enough to kill these kids because of the noise? Because as I've told you, if you pay attention to the details, you can see the house from different places on the street and around the corner. And now that there's no foliage, you definitely would have had a better view of the house, even from the corner. Just you could stand and gawk and watch. And I said, who better to enter the house than someone that lives close to the house, such as a neighbor? Walk around the back, let yourself in, however, do what you have to do and come on out, go right back in your house. Just like that. Jump a fence or walk around through a wooded area, go through the back, enter in, however, take care of your business, come back out. Did these kids lose their lives because of noise? Did they piss somebody off that bad? Because, see, we really don't know anything. And naturally, the police knows everything. And I think back to cases where the police did have information pertaining to the killer, and they never let us know. And Cal City is a prime example of law enforcement having knowledge of the murderers. And I thought about that in this case. I think back to the chief of Cal City being asked so many questions, never answering when he already knew the answer. And he knew who the killers were because the children told it. The children told. They were eyewitnesses and culprits to the murders of their adoptive brothers. So I think back to that case versus this case. Perhaps they do know who the killer is or have an idea of the killers, and they're just not saying anything because they need evidence. And this happens many times in cases when they are building the case during the investigation, and they can't tell you because it would be no different than the questions that news reporters and people are asking now. Well, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And they can't tell you. So then you'll get mad and say, well, why would they tell us? They have a suspect and won't tell us who it is. So there you have it. There you have it. So there are many cases where law enforcement knew right away who the killer was. And Cal City comes to mind. Matter of fact, Cal City is probably the best example, but it's the best example because there were eyewitnesses who were a part of the crime and who told it. So who better to tell you, oh, yeah, we know that they died. They made us beat up our brothers. Now, in this case, I don't know how many people are involved, if it's just one or more, but maybe they do have something and it just appears that they don't. I don't know. But as I said, I have faith in a Moscow Police Department because they have the FBI and the state police. I will now play my commentary. Thank you for joining me. Happy New Year's to everybody in the viewing audience. Please be safe and stay warm. Amen. Thank you. No suspect in Idaho college killings nearly 7 weeks later. News Nation is the source. Thank you.
To welcome forensics professor Joseph Scott Morgan from Jacksonville State University. Joseph, thank you so much for being here. So we'll dive right in. Based on Nancy's reporting, do you get the sense the town is getting back to normal and this case is no longer top of mind for residents? And how does that impact law enforcement's energy in this investigation?
No, it's not. It's not removed from their mind. It's forefront. They're probably just getting used to the idea that that this is going to be part and parcel of their life for weeks and months to come, perhaps years. And they're getting used to seeing news trucks there. It's a new paradigm for them in this environment, and they're adjusting to it. That one young man made a very salient comment, though. He said that this, in his opinion at least, and I'm paraphrasing here, that this is just the way things are pursued relative to the police. And we have to, I still urge everyone to be very, very patient in this case, because the answers to this case are going to rest in the science, I believe, at the end of the day. We have a lot of hyperbole that's bouncing about. We have a lot of static on social media. And granted, the nation can't get enough of this case, but at the end of the day, it's going to come back to the evidence that they collected at the scene and the processing that's been going on for all of these weeks. And, in the whole grand scheme of things, Kelly, this is not a long time. Now, there are certain elements that are probably close to completion now from a testing standpoint, but still we come back to the elephant in the room, and that's DNA. And it's, as I have held from the beginning, it takes a while to unspool all of this because it's multi-layered.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So in these types of cases, is it more likely that the killer is lurking locally, or that this person or persons fled the area?
Well, in this charming little town, this is not a place that you wind up in by accident. Okay, you have to be purposed to be going there. Just like the person that committed this crime that night, we're into, I don't know, the 6th week, heading into the 7th, I guess. They were purposed to be at that home. They didn't just accidentally, wind up there. And so you have to take all of that into consideration. The individual that perpetrated this case probably has, more than likely an intimate familiarity with the environment, with the location geographically, and maybe just a connectivity to the university or perhaps these individuals that were victims here. I think that we can probably rest upon that. And that in and of itself is going to be key, because that's a tie back to the hard science here when we begin to think about the utility of the weapon that was used, the access to the weapon, the access to the home, their points of egress in the home, and certainly any kind of trace elements that were left behind in this case. We think about hair, fiber, certainly DNA, fingerprints, anything that was left behind, shoe prints. There was a copious amount of blood. We do know that at the scene. So there's a chance that something has been left behind that can be tied back to this individual. I think that I can't say that they're still there or not, but I do know that there is some kind of connection to this location.
All right, we have about 40 seconds left, but I'd like to get this question in. Recently, and I'm sure you know this, a TikTok creator accused an Idaho professor of the killings without evidence. So even though the professor is suing the creator, she's not backing down from her claims. So how distracting is this sort of thing for investigators?
It's very distracting. But, I used the word paradigm just a moment ago. This is not back in the day, as people say. This is the new paradigm that investigators are faced with. It's kind of like, I was thinking about it today, it's kind of like a Swiss watchmaker. It's got this beautiful watch in front of them, and there's a 50-piece band playing all around them. It's intricacy that's involved here, and that's very important. You have to understand that, and it's just a distraction. It's something we have to learn to live with now.
All right, forensics professor Joseph Scott Morgan. Really interesting. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Joseph Scott Morgan, great commentary. As usual, News Nation is the source. So you hear no suspect near 7 weeks. This crime took place 7 weeks to the date on Sunday, Christmas Day. No suspects. No weapon found. The Elantra still on the table as far as I know. As a person of source of information, that these are a witness or a suspect. Take your pick. The chief has spoken out recently. I will play a little bit of that commentary. You also hear that a TikToker is being sued by an Idaho professor, University of Idaho professor. Cease and desist order has been rendered against this female. you hear that she is allegedly complying. I don't know if that's truth or not, because then it said that she was going forward with going to court with her tarot card readings, which is just absolutely just astounding and just ignorant. But if a person wants to go fight something in court knowing it's a lie, that is their prerogative. But I believe the professor should take it all the way, because this just goes to show you why you can't be saying things in public. You're entitled to your opinion about how you feel about things, but once you put it in ink or you put it on a broadcast, such as these platforms here, such as what I'm on, anybody could come out and sue you, try to get you to stop making videos and speaking on derogatory comment pertaining to them. Familiarity with the property. Was this a random target, a targeted house, targeted as a party house? And why would it be targeted as a party house? That's why I have this noise complaint in my title. Did these kids cause somebody an issue mentally to where they felt it was necessary to kill these kids? We know that murder is wrong, but in some instances, people do kill people in self-defense. So this wasn't self-defense. It doesn't appear to be. So why did someone kill all four of these individuals? Did they make someone this angry? Because when you talk about familiarity, it can go a multitude of ways. Friend, enemy, new enemy, old enemy, somebody they pissed off, upset, wanted to date one of the young ladies. It is alleged that Miss Kaylee broke up with her boyfriend a few weeks beforehand. So did somebody try to move in? New territory. She rebuffed him or her, whichever. And the person became enraged. There's also footage of the two girls in the bar. Allegedly, that's one of the ex-boyfriends they're talking to. I do not know if that's truth or verifiable. Once again, you're entitled to your opinion. We also know that she tried calling that same boyfriend numerous times and also used Maddie's phone, thinking possibly he was ignoring her. Once again, things that people do. It's not really anything major, because it depends on your interpretation. Drunk dialing is what I call it. Many women and men have done it. People they've dated, hooked up with, they've called them when they're inebriated. It's not no big deal. Thank you all so much for your time. Is the perpetrator familiar with the house, been in the house? And once again, same questions we go over and over. How did they enter? Did the girls leave a window or door unlocked? One of the sliders. When you listen to and watch the audio from the body cam of them going to the house with numerous complaints, or a few complaints rather, you realize the girls let different people come in their house, and they even left the house. If we're to believe that they actually left the house, because you really don't have proof if they left or not, because you just hear Maddie on the phone speaking to the officer. So one would wonder, if they did leave the house on this one occasion, how often did they do that? And maybe they felt like, well, we don't want to get in trouble, so we'll leave the house. One of us will leave the house or pretending that we left the house. But when you listen to the police officers, they were adamant about addressing someone that lived at the house. Okay? But this is what young people do, stupid stuff. And you will hear the cops say that, stupid S-H-I-T. And one is going to wonder, did some of this stupidity cause these kids their lives? Because you see, the things you do in life will affect you. You may not think so at that time. And I'm sure these officers possibly feel some remorse for some of their commentary they used in addressing the kids outside and the situation at hand, and then later found out those are the same girls and guy who are now deceased. Imagine what they're thinking now after saying the things they said, pertaining to kids doing stupid stuff. They're not leaving until somebody opens the door, comes to the door. Well, that is their job. But imagine now how they feel knowing those kids are now dead. And I'm sure they're wondering that. Did somebody do this because of the noise? Because people kill people for various reasons. And many neighbors have fallen out with each other, become violent with one another, use derogatory language, vandalize each other's houses, homes, cars, and have killed each other. So I'm wondering, with this new footage being released, could this be a possible motive for murder, plural? Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $sign the Ganji 129 Cash App, all stickers and chats are welcome. during this live stream. Let's get on with our next information. The house is being cleaned now. I'll play you audio pertaining to that. And then we'll go on to the allegations of this being a party house.
Is it insurance? Wait.
Sorry about that.
And still no suspects, but a brand new update today. News 8's Nancy Liu is live in Moscow, Idaho. Nancy, what are we learning?
Well, Nicole, in a major new development, Moscow police say cleaning will soon be underway here at the murder scene on King Road. The police chief announcing that a private cleaning company has been retained to begin a remediation process starting tomorrow morning.
We are going to be bringing in a professional cleaning crew to go to the residence and begin cleaning. Part of the reason we're doing that is because of the biohazards as well as chemicals that were used during the investigation. So there will be activity over at that residence on King Road, and we just want people to know about that.
In a new YouTube announcement, Police Chief James Fry revealing that the home on 1122 King Road will soon be cleaned out. The timeline for the process is not known, but police say the home will be returned to the property management company when finished. The 6-bedroom rental has been under guard and surrounded by crime tape since the quadruple murders on November 13th. The stabbing deaths remain unsolved.
We've received a lot more tips here recently, and we're continuing to investigate those and follow up on those.
The total number of tips is now near 20,000 in the wake of continued police pleas for information about a white Hyundai Elantra and any digital images or videos from the night of the murders that might provide context. Police have said someone knows something about the night of the murders, indicating that individuals may be afraid to come forward. The remediation of the scene comes over 6 weeks since the deaths of Kaylee Gonsalves, Maddie Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. On December 7th, the chief and others removed many of the victims' personal belongings for return to their families. Now, police continue to stress that no suspects have been identified, but speculation abounds since there is still no reward offered in this case. Meantime, the future fate of this property is not yet known. Nicole?
Yeah, still so many questions here. Okay, Nancy, thank you. Thank you for watching.
News Nation, source number 2. Lot to chop up there. House will be released to the owner after a professional cleaning crew comes in. Imagine the people who have to come in and clean that up. Imagine the people who came on the scene originally. Police officers, ambulance. The chief has spoken about that, getting his staff adequate counseling for mental issues, because going into a crime scene such as this would cause some people possibly some after effects. Because if you have never seen a quadruple homicide to this magnitude, it possibly would affect you. Why would it not? But then some people, it may not, depending on, I guess, your temperament. Did the property owner ask for his property back at some point during this investigation? And if so, when? I'd like to know. Is he trying to re-rent this property? Who is going to want to live there? My fear would, why would you want to live there? We understand that many people are murdered in homes, and at some point they are re-rented or bought or sold. But I can't see anybody wanting to go back in there in the month of January or even February to live in this house, because until you find out who the killer is, I just wouldn't go back to that house to do anything, especially to live. So is the owner attempting to re-rent? Because when you go to certain apartment sites, it shows that the property is available. One site said unavailable, but my original site I went to said it was available, and it listed the rent price. So that made me believe the owner wants to re-rent this place. He'll either re-rent it or sell it. And people are desperate for places to live now, because I also read that there was nowhere to even rent in Moscow, because it is a small place, small town. So there will probably be some students who want to live off campus, but are they willing to live there? Once again, did the property owner talk to the police and tell them he wanted his property back? And when did he ask if he did? And once again, he's never spoken or come forward just to say, by letter at least, my condolences to the family. Great kids. I do find that strange, but you do have other tenants who are now speaking out about the state of the house and creaks and creaking floors and noise levels. Each person, once again, has their own temperament of what is considered noise to he or her. White Elantra still mentioned. If you have any information, please call the Moscow Police Department. What was the proximity of that car to the house? In the driveway, near the driveway, behind the house in that parking lot, parked across the street near the garbage can, down the street? Where was the car parked? And what is the relevance of the White Elantra? Witness or perpetrator? Or a combination of both? Someone sitting in the car as a getaway driver? A lot of options. A lot of options. But that's the commentary here. The house is going to be returned to the owner after being thoroughly cleaned. So that leads us to believe the ultimate, that they are done with the house as far as gathering information. And as you've heard from many experts, that you want to make sure you've got everything, because there is the possibility that you forgot something, missed something. And as I said, the perpetrator could have done some things in there to clothes. He could have soiled the clothes. See, I always think outside of the box, because there are sick people out here. And that's how you catch a killer. You think like one. You don't know if he left a calling card in any of the clothes, dresser drawers. Could have signed something by pen, marker. Who's to say? Because I don't know how crafty this killer was, but I know he was crafty enough not to be caught. So did he leave a calling card? Did he take anything from the scene? And it's very scary, because this house is deeply set in with other properties. And you have a bullseye view from different vantages of the property. So the killer could be anybody. And I always tell people, you can't always focus on the people that know the victim. Although many people are murdered by people they know, but there are people who are also murdered by people they don't know. So it could be a multitude of people and reasonings behind the murder. It doesn't have to make sense to you, because you're not a killer. You don't think like a killer. But he had motivation and he executed it. And you have to admit he executed it well, because we're 6 weeks in, almost 7 weeks. He is not, or they have not been apprehended. Now, do the police have an idea who the perpetrator is? I do not know. Are they keeping us in the loop? Could be. Did these children dive because this was a party house? Too much noise going on in this house. Somebody got angry, got tired of the noise, and got revenge. Got revenge. There's also some new information I see on TikTok on Law and Crime pertaining to that TikToker. She's a piece of work. News Nation, 19 hours ago, was 1122 King Road targeted because it was a party house. Very interesting. That's why I made this title today. Because imagine this is why the kids died. They were making too much noise, police having to come to their house too many times. So how many times did the police have to come to that house while those girls lived at that residence? Very interesting.
Busy in the past, that would actually be counterintuitive of people who commit these sorts of crimes, who plan them, who plot them, they stalk, they might case the joint, but they don't want surprises. They don't want crowds. They don't want a busy house. So I think that the fact that there wasn't anything going on in the house that night at all, and again, we don't even know, the killer could have been inside the house when the people came home hiding. I don't think it's related at all that it was a party house. I think it just gives us a lot of insight into the residents of that house and the kind of house that it was.
All right, makes sense. So Robin, police are saying they believe someone is out there with information or a picture from that night that will turn out to be the missing piece that cracks this case. So how do we interpret that request?
I like the word that he used, someone. Someone means it's very specific, yet not being very specific towards an individual. In other words, I don't think they actually have a specific individual in mind. If they did, they'd already be in contact and interviewing them. The word someone triggers everyone who might have something to dig a little deeper. And what they're really trying to do is they're equipping the general population with knowledge of how to be present and really be change experts. Because if we have confirmation bias or we're looking for a killer, you might miss everything else that might be relevant. So they're trying to help the public really dig deep and think to themselves, what looks different? What did I see different? What do I have that might be different? And that's what they want people to bring forward.
Okay.
Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation.
News Nation is the source. Thank you so very much. Very dicey situation. When you don't know what the police know, what do they know? What do they have? Do they have a suspects in mind? Very interesting. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the vault. Let's get a little information pertaining to this alleged party house. Once again, how many times have the police been out to this house while these girls, all of these girls, 5 girls lived in this house? Law and Crime Network is the source for this next information. Feel free to go to my community board via the YouTube queue to watch the video. Some of it's dark, but you'll get the gist of the story of this. It's 43 minutes long. I'm not going to play all of it, but you'll get the gist from the little bit of audio I'm going to play pertaining to this being an alleged party house and officers having to go to this house on September 1st, 2022.
You guys haven't been drinking or anything, right? No. Okay, drive careful, okay?
Thank
you. Before I get started playing this, when they are walking in the dark, they approach some girls in a parking lot. They asked them if they've been drinking. They said no. They walk off. To your right, you will see lights from another house that sits right directly beside this house. The windows and doors face the driveway. Imagine living there. You would know and hear just about everything going on because your house sits right there. Then there's a house behind it that's enclosed in a fence. Could these neighbors that live right here at this house be the ones that called the police? Somebody called and their lights were on. So whatever time this was when police first got here to the scene, there are lights on in the house directly. You know, if you're walking up to the house, it will be sitting to your right. Naturally, if you're coming out of the house, the house will be sitting to your left. But are these people the ones that called the police on these girls? And how many times has the law been to this house for noise complaints while these residents lived there? Thank you for joining me.
I can go get
You hear a lot of noise in the background, and I find it strange they did not go to the back of the house. It's very strange to me.
Truly is for the win. Moscow 157. Yeah, 1122 Queen Road.
One officer is asking, is this a sorority house? There is a backpack that they just picked up off the ground. I'm believing there is alcoholic beverages inside of that backpack. So who's the person that left the backpack there? Very interesting. Seemed like it would have made more sense to leave it inside if you knew that police were outside banging on the door. Do not know.
Yes. That's hilarious. Like you, as soon as they know it's the cops, everyone does the same thing. They're like, they just like blend into the darkness. It's a normal day. It's been a lot of time doing this since students in here. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
We're only here for a noise complaint. Come to the damn door.
It seems like it's frustrating. You're like, we'll figure out who lives here eventually. Yeah. You go around back. I'll be on the cover. Yeah.
So he's sending somebody to go around the back. That's what they should have done. That all the noise would have stopped had they went to the back. That's common sense. Why they didn't go back there, I do not know. It's very strange. Because that's where the noise is coming from.
They're all mostly students, so yeah, the campus officers can figure out who lives here. And then, honestly, it's a lot worse for them. Pretty freaking.
Now you hear him mention campus officers figuring out who lives here. That's strange to me because my understanding is that Moscow Police Department polices the campus. So if Moscow Police, I guess that's for, I'm confused. Why would Moscow Police police the campus if they have campus police? Naturally, this wouldn't be in the jurisdiction of the campus because it's off-campus housing, separate housing, private owner housing. But this is still confusing why Moscow would still police the campus. Because I heard that said, that they do police the campus. But now you hear this officer saying they have campus police and he or she or they would know who lives in this house. But then that makes no sense because then how would they know who lives in this house if the house isn't affiliated with the campus? This is strange to me. This is very strange to me.
Pretty frequently. Like, campus will, if students get in trouble, they will, if they get in trouble at campus, it's actually honestly for, like, minor stuff, campus will handle it. Like, suspend them or kick them out altogether or lose all your financial aid. Like, it's pretty serious. So. They've had several kids get super hammered.
So you see, he's sitting here talking about campus police handling certain situations pertaining to being expelled, suspended, blah, blah, blah. Still very strange to me because my understanding is that there was no campus police, that the city of Moscow policed the campus. But this is assumingly an off-campus property. Also, you will see windows at the top of the facade facing the street, facing the parking lot. There are no curtains to the windows. You can see light fixtures on Both windows at the top, which would be the second floor, no curtains. That would be the living area. And also to the right, if you're facing the street, facing the house, going up to the house, that would be, I'm assuming, Xana's bedroom. So why no curtains on either windows? Downstairs, you can see a reddish orange color curtain to the right. And I believe there were curtains to the left in that bedroom. That would have been one of the other girls' bedrooms. But upstairs, there's still living quarters nonetheless. Why no curtains? Very interesting. I know some people don't care for them, but in this day and time, you need to invest in some type of blinds or curtains. Don't ever give a person advantage to be able to see in your house, because once a person gets binoculars or a telescope, they can see through there. And just as I said, sit and gawk for hours and watch your movements.
It's like get super hammered and fall off balconies over the years and stuff and die, so they take it pretty serious. Sure. Come to the door, guys. Send whoever lives here down to the door. We're not leaving. And we can also see you. State property. Moscow 157. Do we have any recent involvements at 1122 Queen?
No one's here, Dad. No one's here. No one's here. So everyone here's trespassing? Well, no one's here that's trespassing, but no one is here right now. So where'd they go? It's not here. I have no clue where they go. No clue. So you guys just found a party in their house at the time.
You hear the boys, they've come to the door. The camera's a little several feet away. It's dark. The officer asking them, where are the homeowners? And the boys are telling them that the homeowners have left this house. Was that true? Did the girls, because there were 5 living there at the time, allegedly, did they leave the house, or were they in there hiding and just sent the boys to the door to say they were gone?
They left and went over to some other party, and everyone in the house. I just searched hard to were there. I am actually not sure. I live across the street. I just came over. I haven't picked a job. Male, female. I did like last one. I don't know if they're. I don't. So guarantee they're associated. Many of them are living here on campus where I've been a cop for 22 years. I've got games with me. I'd rather deal with this as a noise complaint. Council, board, all that.
Yeah, almost all college people of them.
You hear the officer speaking to the boys saying he'd rather deal with this as a noise complaint. He's been doing this work for 22 years. So this is what you have to ask yourself legally. If it went to court, a citation, who would have to stand account for the noise complaint? Because you have 5 different people living in the house. And let's say somebody was downstairs sleeping or in another room sleeping or watching TV. Should they be held accountable for the noise in the house? Because if all of the girls' names were on the lease, then how do you distribute blame for the noise complaint? And the one thing I found very interesting about this audio is that somebody specifically, whoever complained, knew that they were on the backside and knew that they didn't live there and described a guy and a girl. You would only know that if, one, you had a bullseye view of the back of the house. Naturally, if you're driving by or you live nearby, you can discern where the noise is coming from because you live close proximity to the house. But that gives away that it's naturally a neighbor who called, but they had to have a view of the backyard to know who was back there to describe them and describe a guy. And you see that at least two guys are standing at the door talking to the police. So there's more than one guy who was back there partying on either balcony or general area in the backyard. This is very, very interesting information. Thank you for joining me. The link is in the chat if you want to give your opinion. If you believe this party house is what got these kids killed, is this the motive? I'm not hypothesizing on any motive or suspect, but due to the fact that this body cam information has been released, I'm asking an obvious question. Because in the end, you don't know the motive, you don't know the suspect. So you don't know, and you don't know the kids. And I've said that during my live streams. Any reason could have got these kids killed because you're talking about 4 different people, 4 different attitudes, 4 different dispositions, 4 sets of friends. Did they upset somebody? Did they have legal troubles with somebody? Did they witness a crime? So you don't know. And if there was no stalker of any of the girls, then you have to use deduction of who and why someone would want the kids dead. Thank you for joining me. This is the vote.
Yeah, almost all college people up on the hill probably didn't know most of them. Yeah. And this is kind of
Playing Wordscape's only 10 minutes.
Sorry about that brief intermission.
So big a party that goes crazy.
He says it echoes, which it would.
We'll go verify that there was a party here. We'll go get a phone number. We'll be right back. We're not trying to make your life. I understand. I just letting you know this is how it's going to play out. I'm not going anywhere until I talk to someone. We're not trying to make our life. Just know we're trying to see the door open for us. That way we can get some sort of communication between us and them. No one knows you're here. No. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I do. And hey guys, really we're just coming here for this. Okay. No, I get it. I apologize, but no one's coming to the door.
Well, that's it. Someone from this house that down here all of a sudden. I'm sure the fucking was bolted.
Well, they may have been fed up if they went there a lot.
There was some coming behind us, and I don't know where they went, but they looked like they were probably headed this direction. Yeah.
Yes, please just go call someone. Thank you. All right.
Well, they told me they just looked across the street, so that means they're Sigma Chi. Yep, they're Sigma Chi. He pointed right at it. That was not intelligent. Young man.
Fucking off-campus party.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Such a fucking idiot. If I have to, I'll just start writing plates.
I was seriously doing the same thing. Yeah.
Now, you hear them giving their personal commentary on these body cams, and I think this will probably be a lesson learned to many officers because when they first walking up to the house, it was quiet. I don't know if they had the mics turned off or it's been edited out, but you see they're giving their commentary pertaining to children in general and the conversations they're having with these kids, and I'm sure in hindsight, they realize, wow, this is now being released to the public. And I'm assuming the police department released this, just like I'm curious to who released the alleged photo of the girls at the corner bar, if that's an actual photo of the girls. You can't take back what you said. And I'm sure some parents will probably be offended because these are the children that they're talking about who are now dead. It probably wouldn't be no big deal if the kids were alive. But naturally, somebody's probably going to get offended at the things they're saying, you know, saying that the kids are stupid, don't know how to think before speaking. But a lot of times people don't know what to think and say when the police arrive. They're caught off guard. Well, you know, the law will tell you to be quiet. That's the law. You do not have to speak. You don't have to tell anything. And that's how most people get caught up in a lie. It's because they start talking. It is what it is.
was seriously doing the same thing. Kick all the campus back. Have a nice day. Figure out who these people were.
A big ass party with underage drinkers, and they all left and wouldn't come to the door, so they're uncooperative. Yep. Here are the names of the people who were there.
Maybe they didn't care, J Luck. Obviously, they didn't care.
Play stupid games if you want to.
There's a party somewhere. Yeah, their music is real.
This is what's obvious to me during this 43-minute video, or 40-plus minute. The police banging at the door, trying to find the owner of the house, blah, blah, blah. Common sense would have said, why not walk around the back of the house? That's where you hear the noise. The noise would have stopped immediately when the police walked to the back. You would have to do this Hollywood shuffle of waiting for somebody to come to the door, Pookie Ray Ray coming to the door, Big Bubba, go to the back of the house. Because this cuts down your time hanging at this house for a noise complaint. Just go around the back, say what you have to say, ask for names, blah, 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 whatever, and then leave the scene. This song and dance could have been over with. Could have been over with. So I find it interesting they did this song and dance at the front of the house. And the fact that somebody had to have gone in to tell the girls and the people there, hey, the police is at the front of the house banging on the door, you still can hear them hollering and screaming. So that should tell you they did not care whoever was in the house, whether all the girls were there or not. We don't have verification of who was there. You'd have to have an eyewitness who was there to say, yes, this one was there. You have to have somebody to tell you. But I do find it strange that these guys say they were gone and left the house. Why, in God's name, if this is true, would you leave your house and walk out and let some people just party in your house? So that will lead me to ask, did they have locks on the doors September 1st? Because I would not want strangers running around the house and their private bedrooms, personal items there that anybody could pick up and steal. Very strange to me. Very, very strange to me. So once again, did the girls have locks on their doors, keypad locks? Because with people running in and out of the house, that's very dangerous. Anything could happen. God forbid somebody underage is in the house drinking. Something jumps off. Somebody falls. As he heard him saying, one of the officers fall over a railing, a balcony. Now you're talking about somebody with a broke neck, dead. House full of people. And naturally, everybody's going to play stupid. We don't know anything. And you could be charged with serving alcohol to a minor. And everybody in this house could have possibly been under the age of 21. Very interesting information. Were the girls there in the house? Did that boy or those boys lie to the officers that the girls were gone?
That's real fast. Real fast. Real fast.
Those 26 guys are the only one that I hear.
Yep.
They said they're going to another party. I wonder if there's another Greek party somewhere.
Probably. Because they were taking alcohol.
Yeah, they were going somewhere.
But hey, they abandoned it.
Yep.
So guess what? Start dumping alcohol. They abandoned property.
Yes, Andrea.
I like it when they abandon.
Very good point.
Yep.
The killer is possibly a neighbor.
Exactly. Street youth. White Claws? White Claws. Nice. I hate when I leave my White Claws. Oh, they're cold too. Man.
Yeah, these are cool.
Whew. Oh, God. There's an open one, but hello.
Who left the bag of beer outside? You hear them opening the cans and dumping out the beer. They got them out of a bag, and also there was a box of beer out there, a box of Truly beer, and another kind of beer in a bag. Why would you have the bag out front? That is very strange to me. If you're inside of the house or in the back partying with your friends, why would you leave the bag outside? Because even if you know that the police is outside, you'd be stupid to come out with the bag. Or were you scared, wondering if they were going to ask you what was in your bag? And then you're underage, then you'd have to open the bag. Then that would lead to a citation. This is very strange behavior for some young people. This is very, very strange to me. Well, the police wanted them to know this is just a noise complaint. They weren't trying to arrest them for underage drinking and all of that. They just wanted to find the owner of a house. That's been said in this commentary.
An open one, but hello.
You do that? Learned that from a college kid. Yep. Yep. Okay. I just got to watch my Maddie, 1 second. You can barely on this phone. You look up Queen Road. Okay.
Another point is this. If they knew that the police officers were outside and they had bags of beer, boxes of beer, common sense, you could have walked up the back hill and walked down that driveway as if you were coming from those apartments. If you were afraid of the police and bringing your alcoholic beverages out. Stay woke. That's why they were making commentary about how dumb the children are. Because this is what happens when you don't think and you're not using a rational mind. And we know that people don't use a rational mind when they are drinking, and some don't use it when they're not drinking. But the kids could have easily walked through the back if it wasn't too steep. But as I said, who would be thinking once drinking? Let's go up this hill in the back and just walk down the drive as if we don't live or we're at this house. And that's another thing. If the girls were inside of the house hiding, did they hide because they've had the police at this house before on one or more occasions? Will that also be released to the general public? How many times the police was called to 1122 King Road?
Queen Road. Okay. So, hey, the reason that we're here is that we can see live music on YouTube channel.
No one should be a fan of White Claw, the truth.
Pleasure.
There's a link in the chat if you'd like to give your opinion. Feel free to hit the link. You can give your opinion on my live panel. Do you believe the killer is a neighbor? Across the street, behind them, beside them? Did someone become so disgruntled with these girls that they decided to kill them on this fateful morning because of the noise? Who is the perpetrator and what was the motive? Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the phone.
And then we sat here and good on you. I wish I didn't actually. I did want to college. Right now, if I can, I would like to question. I remember what it's like to college. And I'm guessing, and I want your current address also as well, okay? Yeah. It's okay. I don't assume that's the How do you spell it, Maddie?
Loaded weapon right there. Twisted T. Remember that video where the dude smokes that guy? All right.
Two boys are standing here in front with the police outside.
They're gonna be sad when they come find them.
They are dumping the beer out.
So you guys are Sigma guys?
I'm a Sigma. I was in a house on
you what? What?
Graduated.
I will graduate with a bachelor's. I'm taking my master's right now. So. But you get master's right, Madison. I'd like so here's the deal. Okay.
Actually, got to get
right. Really? Like, what's his name? The occupancy.
1,000 conversations going at one time.
He's you don't know that. He needs to go through come down. Okay. You just received the down way. I know if he joined the fraternity, I was going.
They got separate conversations going.
I see both sides of it.
I did it because I know his personality, and after a while, I understand. Okay, it's just if I were you guys, I'd probably just come on. I was in a different and make sure that whoever is right here is keep it down.
No.
at this point, we're going to go, okay? And again, if I have to come back later tonight, like I said, I just want to express that there's since I hate to give it out. Yes, ma'am. Okay, you enjoy your evening, all right?
Try and make sure they actually
Still noisy.
invest in their own program. Yeah, so we like to get them to this point, just to get them hired. It's a pretty substantial, like, they do a full background check. You go to all their previous places of work. Like, we send people to where they live.
Now you hear him talking about sending people to where people live and all of that. You know, just it's almost craziness listening to this cop talk. This was a recipe for disaster. Okay? 3 floors, 2 bedrooms on each floor. That's 6 occupants. 6 different attitudes, dispositions, sets of company, friends. Stay woke. It was a recipe for disaster because you do not know people. You do not know everybody's friends. There may be a time when one wants to party, one does not. One wants to sleep, one wants to rest, one wants company. How do you live with that many people in a house? God forbid, sharing only one kitchen. Stay woke. Who's going to be the person to do the cleaning of washing dishes? Just basic things. Do you have a dishwasher? See, too many attitudes, too many people in one room. Somebody gets mad at somebody. Who's to say, yeah, somebody had a problem with one girl, but they end up killing all these other people, all because of being upset with this one chick. And it's not to say any of those kids deserve to die like this, but when you're dealing with a sick mind, he doesn't care. He don't care about those kids. That's why they're dead. He didn't care about whoever his target was. If there was a target, he didn't care about killing anybody that was going to be a witness, see, hear anything. He didn't care. And I keep telling people, you can think all you want that, oh, he was tired, exhausted from killing the 4. I don't know that because I wasn't there. I don't know what the hell he was feeling like. He should have been tired after killing 2. How about that? He should have been tired after killing 2. Because if I'm stabbing you, there's a motivation behind the stabbing. And 9 times out of 10, I want you dead. So don't you think I got to stab you enough times to make sure you ain't breathing? You don't come back out of that room to even tell the cops you think you know who did it? This was bad. Too many people in one house. And if one was the target, why didn't he find the person by him or herself, by herself? It would have believed it was just one of the females. Why not catch them by themselves? You want me to believe that none of these girls went anywhere by themselves? Bullshit. Bullshit. Why that night? Why that night? Why risk going in a house that's obviously labeled a party house, as you hear with this body cam information, and you watch the video yourself? Feel free to watch it on Law and Crime on my community page. Make it make sense. Why this night? In my understanding, that was a busy weekend for festivities. So that's possibly why their house was quiet in November, is because other functions were taking place throughout the city. So that's why it was quiet. Because obviously the girls each went different places that night and didn't have a party there. Were they warned to stop having parties and making noise at their apartment? Did somebody contact the landlord? See, you have to ask all the appropriate questions because a lot of you don't focus on the obvious stuff. You focus on gossip, he said, she said stuff. Focus on what is being told to you. Now that you know that the police have been there, they were adamant about finding the owner of the house, you have to now ask yourself, if somebody got a citation, who was going to take the responsibility? Imagine if somebody wasn't even in the house. Would their names be involved as a co-conspirator of the noise? See, you don't know. And they could be lied on too. So this is why I keep trying to tell you, you don't know these kids. You don't know these kids. You don't know what they were into. You don't know who they pissed off. You don't know anything about them. That's why you can't say who the killer is. Because people have been killed for less. And it wasn't no crime of passion. It wasn't no being rebuffed. It wasn't no incel. I got a problem with you. I want you eradicated. And it happens every day. People are killed for the most mundane of reasons. And it would not shock me if this is a neighbor that did this or hired somebody to go in there and kill those kids. Because you'd have to know you could enter through the back if we're believing that is the entry point. The back slider or the third floor slider or a window. See, each week they give you a little bit of tea pertaining to this case. Picture at a bar, allegedly. Video of the kids at the grub bus. Then now here's another video of them walking with this guy. Who's to say they're not sending you a message that what you think is going on ain't? Exactly. Listen. Listen at the details. Because for somebody to describe one of the girls and a guy, that should tell you that's somebody that lives right close proximity to the house. And if you are in the apartment building to the right of the house, you can't see around the back second door slider. You would only see if you saw them standing on the balcony facing that drive going up to those apartments. So that leaves the house directly beside the driveway and the house that's enclosed in the fence. Maybe somebody's been watching all along and been awfully irritated with these girls.
To where they live. So just to get to where you're hired was a big deal. And then it's 4 phases, 4 weeks each. They get progressively more burden put on them to do the job on their own, basically. And so we have like a 50% washout rate. Oh, wow. Yeah. So even if they are like from out of state, you try and send somebody there? Yeah. Yep. Like we send people to Montana and Illinois and California. From the police department, our detective sergeant goes, talks to all their bosses, and pulls all their records. It's crazy because it's such a high liability. Like if you hire someone who's got a bad record, you don't find it because you're stuck with them. So yeah, it's a pretty significant process. Are you ready for college? No. I just drank a bite. Apartment by myself. Seriously. What's party over there? I don't play for that. It's Halo time.
Okay, I think they're reading off personal information. Hold on. They're quiet right now. They're doing their work. Hit the link, you guys. You don't have to keep chatting in the chat. That's what the link is for. Give your opinion. Come up on the panel and be heard. Did these kids get killed because of noise? They've got their body camera quiet right now. You can even see somebody in the living room window from where the police officers are. I don't know if they're replaying this over again. No curtains on the top floors, the middle floors. Very scary. I don't know the time of this audio. It says, let's see, hour 20:52. So it's loud. You can tell it's loud. The noise is loud.
Hey, ladies, how's it going?
Okay, so they're just replaying that over, going back to the beginning where they confronted the first girls coming out. A bag of alcohol was left. I don't know if it was those girls or not, but this just goes to show you very interesting information. One day ago, Inside Edition, Maddie comes to the door of a noise complaint. Thank you for joining me.
What's your name?
Xana. Police confront
Xana, excuse me.
The Idaho University murderers. Bodycam video obtained by a web sleuth shows cops at the house where the murders happened for the second time in one night. Xana Kernodle comes to the door and an officer reads her the riot act.
This is the second noise complaint we've had here tonight within 2 hours.
I'm sorry
Okay.
about that.
So this time it was the blonde gal and the guy on the back porch playing music. Okay. So
I sincerely apologize about
Okay.
that. I'm just going to bed.
Okay. So just so you understand, you could be getting a misdemeanor citation for this, which means you have to go in front of a judge and explain.
Okay, they're talking to Xana Kernodle in this audio. The date on it says 9/2, hour, I guess, 0.39, whatever. So I don't know if this is later from the original hour that they had the kids, a whole bunch of people at the house, because I don't read military time. But something is very strange here. This time, Xana is at the door. She's apologizing, saying also she's frustrated too. But it says 9/2. The audio I played earlier was 9/1. Also still dark outside. So I need to know if the audio here with Xana is after the other kids have left the house and it's just a guy and a girl in the back sitting playing music, because you hear the officer speak of a guy and a girl. Who was that guy and who was that girl? Which was the person? Who was the person? Was it Maddie? Or was it Kaylee? Or was it one of the other girls? The other two roommates. Very interesting. This is 9/2. The audio I played before was 9/1. So what are the hour differences of both audios?
Which means you have to go in front of a judge and explain why you couldn't.
Same night is what I thought. Okay.
The incident happened over Labor Day weekend, 7 weeks before the brutal murders. It's 12:40 a.m. Xana was the only one of the 5 women who lived there who was home.
Okay, Xana.
Cops,
Okay.
another victim, Madison Mogan, was at the Corner Club, the same sports bar where she and slain Kaylee Gonzalez spent their last evening alive. That's them caught on a just-released surveillance camera image a couple of hours before they were murdered. Bodycam makes it clear the house was party central, and the noise was infuriating neighbors.
We could hear you from clear down the road when we were coming up here. We could hear the music. Because the neighbors are being kept up.
Meanwhile, the 7-week investigation into the murders appears to be stalled. Cops issued a strongly worded appeal asking the public for additional pictures, video, and social media content to help solve the murders.
When you ask the public generally for help, it means you're stuck.
I spoke with former FBI agent Maureen O'Connell. Do you think the suspect was known to the victims?
I think the victims were known to the suspect
Yes.
in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
And it could have been something innocuous, like someone that just works at a convenience store or would see these girls going out to, hang with their friends, and they were very beautiful and popular. I could see someone becoming fixated on them in that regard.
Idaho police say they've now received more than 12,000 tips in the case.
All right, that was a day ago. The tips are near 20,000 now. So this call, they show 12:40 a.m., 9/2. So that makes me wonder, the audio that I played you before, was that before then that the kids were partying? Because you hear him say, this is our second time coming out here. This is not good, because in this description at 12:40 a.m. and Xana comes to the door, another person, of course, she's saying that the other person that they're speaking of making the noise is at the corner bar. But what's crazy is they've described a blonde and a guy on the back porch playing the music. That means somebody was watching to know that it was a guy and a girl back there. And 9 times out of 10, they use Xana to go to the door to answer. I doubt that they were at the corner bar. Could be, maybe not. See, that's the same thing the boys told the police officers. Oh, the owners of the house, they're not here. This Maddie person, she's not here. Then here comes Xana speaking up as the mouthpiece. And somebody has now been descriptive of who was out there making the noise. This is personal. This is real personal. Because now you hear, hey, we've been back here, time number 2. There's a guy and a girl back on the porch playing music. That means that's a neighbor. Because even if somebody wanted to do something out of spite, they still have to know that they're back there together playing the music. Who is the neighbor that called? Is it the house that's in the fence at the back of the property? The house that sits directly at the driveway? Or somebody that lives in an apartment complex up on the hill to the right of the property? Yes, Ebony. Somebody hated them possibly. Yeah. And you can get hate from noise. Let me tell you, when you live in apartments, it becomes redundant. And we all have our moments where we're moving furniture, clacking stuff, entertaining guests. But that's the point about noise, is that it echoes. So long as you're inside of a structure, it's going to echo. And although they were outside, as you heard the officer say, that noise is booming because you're playing music and you got a houses and buildings surrounding. It's just nothing but a big circle. It's going to echo. And I just found it strange that the police officers didn't go to the back of the house to where the noise was coming from, because it would have stopped as soon as the kids saw them. They would have turned the music down. And he would have had to tell them, hey, I'm not coming back here. But in this audio here at 12:40, you hear him say, this is my second time coming here. So now we have to ask ourselves, how many times has law enforcement been to 1122 while all 5 occupants lived at the house? Did it keep up other neighbors inside of the house, such as the 2 remaining roommates? Were they the partying kind of girls? Were they there 9/1/92, Labor Day weekend? And as I said, if it went into the management company or whoever owned the house, who's going to address the noise? See, that's another question. Because what the owner is going to say, well, you all live here. How do I know who's turning on the boom box? How do I know who's hollering and screaming? This is why I told you I will not claim who killed the kids nor motive, because they're 4 separate entities, 4 separate people, 4 separate attitudes, 4 separate dispositions. No way I could sit up here and assume a motive or the killer. There's also information from ABC News, I believe it's a local affiliation. I'm going to read you that commentary pertaining to what the father has to say about this crime, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the vault. Well, I thought some of you might want to come up here and entertain yourselves with the Queen. Obviously not. as you know, there's no break in this case. Police is asking for the help from the public. Any little bit of information, small bit of information, may seem insignificant, could help lead them to the killer. Moscow Police Department put out a renewed call for social media content, pictures, and videos from the community, saying whether you believe it's significant or not, your information might be one of the puzzle pieces that help solve these murders. ABC7 is the source. So far, no major break in the case. Members of the community are on edge. Everybody's doing the best that they can under duress. It's really stressful. We're just waiting, hoping every day for some good news, said Moscow resident Buddy Levy. Moscow police also gave an update about that vehicle that was spotted near the scene, believed to be a 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra, saying they have identified over 22,000 vehicles and that whoever was inside may have critical information about the case. Mystery has surrounded the murders of roommates Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, and Xana Cornolo, as well as Cornolo's boyfriend Ethan Chapin, who were all stabbed to death inside a house. 2 other roommates presumably slept through the murders. Police said they have combed through thousands of leads, but have not announced suspects or persons of interest. The families are growing desperate for answers as they face the holidays without their loved ones. Kaylee Gonzalez's father spoke with ABC News just after Thanksgiving. It's a shame, you know, and everybody wants it to go away, and it needs to go away, but it can only go away when we have justice, said Kaylee's father, Steve Gonzalez. It's a feeling echoed by those living in Moscow, word about the killer on the loose. They need to find this person or persons now, Levy said. ABC7 is the source. Well, I wouldn't say that people want the case to go away. I would say anybody sane would want the gossip to stop, the rumors to stop, and for the killer to be caught. The only people that could possibly want this case to go away would be the university, because they stand to lose because they are in a business. And without attendees, they don't make any money. They have to have money to run the school. They have to have money to pay the staff to keep up the activities at the school. So if there are no students, they don't generate any money. People won't visit the school. People don't patronize. Now, the townspeople, they need the money, because without the people going to the school, people visiting, traveling, people coming in and out of the town, they don't get any money. Stay woke. So the townspeople, businesses, and the school will be the biggest losers. Those will be the ones that want the crime to hurry up and be swept under the rug, perhaps. But a lot of us want the killer caught, want justice for you and your families, friends, the townspeople. But you just have to wait. You have to wait. I do not know what they have pertaining to a suspect or a motive. But I'm praying they know something. Once again, cleaning crew coming in to clean the house out. So that means they will be sealing up this house, and the investigation will possibly be done, because what will there be to clean? What will there be to look for once the cleaning crew cleans up the house? So possibly there'll be no more going into the house gathering evidence, because as you heard from the chief, cleaning supplies were used as to gather evidence of this crime scene. And possibly the landlord has told law officials he, she, they want the house. And as I asked earlier in this commentary, did the owners tell the police, hey, expedite this cleaning process, gathering evidence. I need my house back. I need to make money. But who wants to go live in this house shortly after kids were bludgeoned to death? There's no way in hell you get rent money from me to live in there, because I don't know the killer. I don't know his motive. And who's to say he won't decide to come back to 1122 King Road and decide to play more funny games? He's going to have a hard time getting somebody to come back to that house as a renter, because I will be scared shitless. And if they're college students, the problem will go back to the way it was as far as partying, guest over, 6 different people living in a house. You want me to believe nobody's going to have any get-togethers, any functions? Come on now. So whoever was complaining and they still live right near that house, you will be complaining again once he rents out the house again. And as I said, God forbid that the killer is a neighbor and killed these kids because of the noise. You'll be bringing out your knife again, hypothetically. Very scary information. As I brought you content about 2 days ago, Maddie Mogan's father believes that this crime will be solved from evidence and digital surveillance. And as I said, I'm glad he spoke out and has a positive attitude pertaining to this case. A cleaning crew is coming in to clean the house. So that means they will be turning this house over to, law officials will be turning this house over to the prospective owners. Picture has come out pertaining to the girls at a corner bar, Maddie and Kaylee. Do not know if this is an adequate or real photograph. One would wonder, why is it being released? Who is the guy in the hat sitting there with them? Some believe it's one of the Jacks. I do not know. But what I did question is why video footage from the bar wasn't released immediately. So is there actual video footage of the girls in the bar that night? Where is the video footage of the girls in the bar that night? Where else did the girls go that night? Who is the killer? Is the killer somebody that knows the kids, dealt with the kids personally? Was there an actual target? Was the house a target? Was it a neighbor? Did a neighbor hire somebody to go in and eradicate these kids? Because think about it. Let's just say it's a neighbor and they killed the kids because of the noise. You kill everybody in the house, you eradicate the noise, and you also cause a problem for the landlord to where he won't be renting the house out to anybody else. Stay woke. Because you see, you do have minds that navigate this way. No, we're not going to kill just one. Kill all of them. Except they left two behind, interestingly enough. And why were two left behind? Because if you've been watching the house, you would know who's going and coming out of there. Because all you have to do is look at the cars parked in the driveway. Bingo card. Stay woke. The cars in the yard tells you who lives there. You see 5 cars starting out in the early morning. 9 times out of 10, that's 5 people that live in the house. 6 cars, same 6 cars coming and going, 6 people live in the house. So you have to ask all the obvious questions. And now with these alleged pictures being released, video surveillance of the girls walking to the grub bus video, you have to ask yourself, what is the motivation behind the release of these photographs and videos? Is it perhaps that what you think you're seeing, you're not? Or somebody's trying to implicate a certain person in the video and the photo stills? I do not know. But due to the fact that you have 4 victims, there's no telling what the motive is and who the killer is. You don't know if somebody was just an innocent bystander because of somebody else's hate for another person in the house. Stalker, random person. Somebody rebuffed somebody. Somebody said something out of the way to somebody. Somebody bullied, teased somebody. You don't know. Because you don't know the kids. And every day people have put out malicious accusations against these said parties that you would have known nothing about had the information not been revealed that somebody broke up with somebody. Somebody went to the corner bar. Somebody went to the grub bus. Imagine if you had none of that information. You have nobody to even used as a suspect. Had the neighbors kept their mouths closed, you wouldn't have a dagger to throw at them. That's the point of the story. All these different entities, some jumped in the case, possibly for attention, making up lies about a professor being involved. The police has said that professor, she is not involved in the case, not a suspect. And this is the one that is currently suing a TikToker. Cease and desist order for her to be quiet and stop making videos about her being the culprit. You have no idea who killed these kids and why. And that's the point. Because it may be something just simple as, I didn't like them, that's why I killed them. Could it be that Kaylee was more exuberant than the other girls? Maybe she had a little more mouth on her. Could that be it? There's no disrespect to the deceased, but you have to ask all these questions because her father, they said that about her growing up. You know, she's a leader, right fighter, spoke up for herself. Could it be she was the right fighter in this household, in this group? Maybe she said something somebody didn't like. You don't know. And that's the part of the story that only the police have a general idea of a suspects, and a motive. But with 4 people, 4 different lives, attitudes, dispositions, how in God's name can you pinpoint who is the killer? With 4 different people living in a house, 3 living there, 1 boyfriend visiting, and 2 unharmed. Yes, your mouth can get you in trouble. Having an opinion, being opinionated can cause you problems. People think that. When you speak up for yourself or you speak up on something you don't like or disagree with, all it takes is some nut job to have a problem with what you said, and now they're trying to hunt you down. Or hell, just beat you or shoot you on sight or stab you. This is a tragic case. Because as I've said, no matter the motive, the killer still snuffed out 4 people. And you can't take away from that. So the public at large, in general, the public is at risk. You have a mad person on the loose. So it doesn't matter the motive. The motive only matters to us because we don't know why he did it. But if you can kill 4 people in one house, brazenly go into someone's house and kill them and come out and not be apprehended for almost 7 weeks, why would I think you wouldn't kill somebody else? There is no difference. And you can't differentiate by saying, well, I think he did it because of this and he got it out of his system. That makes no sense because he killed 4 people. And you don't even know why he killed the 4. Whether it was happenstance, somebody was in the way, somebody was collateral damage by being a witness, still doesn't matter. He still killed them. So if he had 1 in mind, he still snuffed out 3. If he had 2 in mind, he snuffed out 2 extra. He didn't care. That's the point. He didn't care before he walked in there. He didn't care if it was spur of the moment. He didn't care if it was planned. He didn't care. And he will kill again. Whether it's a serial killer, it was personal beef with one of the girls, personal beef with 2 of the girls, personal beef with 3 of the girls, personal beef with 3 girls and a guy, personal beef with all of them living in that house, personal beef with some situation that occurred at the house. It doesn't even matter. He was angry and he executed 4 people. I'm not going to hold you all. That's my basic content for this evening. Hope you all have a wonderful new year. I will bring you more content. As I said, no weapon, no suspect. A a lot of situations pertaining to this case are not even about the kids. You're getting a glimpse now with this body cam footage being released. But as I've always said, you're not going to know who the killer is until you know who the kids are. So now you're getting a glimpse of noise complaints. And that's not to define them, because you're not supposed to be defined by your worst moment. These were young people having a good time. And all of us have been young. I attended college. I've only went to, I think, maybe one off-campus party in someone's apartment. But all my partying was done at a local club that we all went to. We drank in our dorm rooms, and then we went to the club thereafter because they didn't sell alcohol at this club. They just played music. So we buy our alcohol, drink it in our dorm rooms, and then go to the club. So I didn't have this off-campus experience as these young people have had. And unfortunately, their experience was your worst case scenario. They were murdered. Very baffling case. But as I said, it could be a very simple answer to all of these questions. We don't know because, as I said, we don't know them. The answer could be sitting right here in front of us. And usually it is. That's why I don't participate in the gossip and the he said and the she said, because that's a distraction. And the police have told you that, and experts have told you that. That focusing on all that he said, she said is a distraction. Focus on what's being said. Focus on what information that you're getting that can be verified. Because this is why we have 4 dead people now, is because somebody had a problem with them. And gossiping and making up lies about people could also send somebody over the edge. You'd be talking about another homicide. So I wouldn't go out here poking the bear, because 4 kids are dead. And 9 times out of 10 are with foolishness. And you don't know what accusing somebody of murder could do. They could kill themselves. They could hurt somebody else. They could see your post on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or whatever, and go after you. And some of you don't think like that. But there are people out here who've done it. They just did it to these kids. That's why I find it strange that people think it's funny to just keep going on and on and on, like this black girl making up all this stuff about this professor. Who's to say she didn't find somebody to find her and knock her off? No more TikTok videos. You don't know what people will do out here. And I think the fact that somebody killed 4 people in their beds should show you what the human mind is made of. I did it because I could. I don't need your permission. And I'll do it again. And that's the attitude some of you need to have when you're out here poking the bear. Now, I'm a commentary channel. Many things I've said that people won't agree with, don't like, and can feel the same about me. That's the point. And if they wanted to try to find me, they could. This isn't a joke up here. Whenever you talk on social media and you start commenting on articles and people being guilty, not guilty, you have exposed yourself to the element. And it can have a boomerang effect. And let's be truthful. Many people have lost their lives from passing gossip. Many people have died because they were running their mouth. And there could have been truth to what they were saying, their opinion. But they're not alive now. And with this new footage being released, it would be damn near horrifying to know a neighbor killed these kids because of noise complaints. Who's to say somebody just said, fuck it, I'm tired of hearing these kids. They don't have any respect. And they could be young people as well. Some young people who wanted rest, wanted sleep. Tired of the coming and the going and the traffic. And that's another thing. Did they leave people in their house unattended? Because we don't have proof that the girls were not there when the police came 2 times. Xana opened the door once. But who's to say that any of them ever left? Because that seems crazy to leave your house with strangers running around your house with your valuables in there. But you don't know. Somebody has to be able to tell us the truth pertaining to 9192-2022. But people, yes, snap every day. And you know this. People go off over the stupidest things. And let's keep it real. For those who have not followed my content and new to this channel, which is now called The Vault, last week, one of my viewers who lives in Memphis, Tennessee, came up on a panel to give you a testimony pertaining to her cousin who was brutally stabbed a few weeks ago in New York City in a women's shelter. And I'm sharing this with you because it's relevant to this story, perhaps. You entitled to your interpretation of the information that I'm going to repeat to you. Long story short, her niece was in a shelter so she could verify housing through a voucher program. She was supposed to be getting the voucher so she could find housing in New York City. Instead, she ended up stabbed to death in her room or in that shelter by her roommate because she was playing music. Listen to what I'm saying to you carefully. Because this is before we knew about this Bodycam being released. That was just a week ago when someone came up on this panel to say they lost their cousin who was in a New York shelter trying to be a model, moved there from Oklahoma with goals to be a model. She's also done some Vogue Mexico work, but naturally rent is very expensive in New York City. So she lived in a shelter to show she was homeless. Well, she is now dead because her roommate killed her by a knife because her radio was too loud. So don't think these girls could not have ended up dead alongside Ethan Chapin because of music. Prayers for Miss Vanna and her family. If you need verification of the story I'm speaking of, please go to my community board. I posted the news story a week ago of the young lady who was brutally murdered in a women's shelter in New York City. You also hear testimony from a resident who lived in the shelter that said people were running around the shelter, running around the building unattended, and people had access also to come in and out of the building. Please go to my community board for that said story. The gist is that you don't know people. And this woman was in the shelter with a weapon, a knife, and killed her bunkmate over music. And whether it was music, a disagreement, it was wrong. Because it should have never got to that point of her stabbing this woman in a place that's supposed to be secure. And now I'm sure they will have a nice little lawsuit on their hands, this women's shelter. Possibly be closed down because this should have never happened. But the point I'm trying to make is the same point in this story with the Idaho 4. You don't know the kids. You don't know what they were doing. You don't know the problems they had with other people. You don't know who liked them, didn't like them, what the motive is. It could be something just as simple as this. Somebody got pissed off over a fucking Bluetooth box and waited on that fateful morning, made entry into the house, and went directly floor to floor, killing the girls over some damn music. Hypothetically. Prayers to the families, the victims, the town, the staff. Prayers to the Idaho professor who was having to sue a TikToker. Make an example out of her. Show you that, yes, you do have to own what you say. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $sign McAndrew, 129 Cash App. Happy holidays to everybody. Happy New Year. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. You have been listening to The Vault. Thank you.